Hello everyone and welcome to a new video of Firepower Threat Defense series. In this video, we are going to talk about SSL inspection on FTD firewall. So let's jump onto the FMC. This is our FMC and this is our access control policy which is applied to this FTD. In order to, enable the SSL inspection, we have to create a SSL policy and then attach that SSL policy here under this access control policy. Right now you see this SSL policy is set to none. But if you click on this none, you have a drop down menu to select your intended SSL policy. So where do we create this SSL policy? So in order to create this SSL policy, you have to go to policies and then SSL. This is where we create SSL policy. Let's create a new SSL policy. I'll click on add a new policy or I can click on new policy. I would say add a new policy. Let's name this policy SSL and then what is the default action set for this policy? What should be done to the traffic that does not match any rules in this policy? I would say do not decrypt because I don't want to drop, basically block or block with reset for the traffic that does not match any rule in this SSL policy. Now here I'll hit save. Our SSL policy is now created. Okay. There are four tabs in this policy. First, rules. Next, trusted CS certificate. After that, undecryptable actions. After that, advanced settings. So the rules section has where you can create SSL inspection rules for inbound or outbound SSL inspection. Now, trusted CA certificate section has all the trusted CA certificates which are part of this SSL policy. These certificates are used to, check the trustworthiness of the server certificates for the outbound SSL inspection. Now, suppose if traffic is determined to be undecryptable, then what should be the actions in specific scenarios? To set that, you have to click on undecryptable actions and look at these options. Decryption errors. If there are decryption errors, what should be done to the traffic? Should you block it or block with reset? Okay, you have two options to choose here. Similarly, you have handshake errors, session not cached, unsupported cipher, unknown cipher, SSL v2 session, and compressed session. So for all these reasons as well, you can set an action which you want to set here. But if you set inherit default action, then it will inherit the default action of the SSL policy, which in our case is do not decrypt. Okay. And under the advanced settings, you have certain more options, which are, specific to SNOT version as well as the FTD operating system version. Block flows requesting ESNI. ESNI is encrypted SNI. And then disable HTTP3 advertisements. Propagate untrusted server certificate to clients. If a server certificate that is untrusted, it will be propagated to the clients. But for that, this option is only available on SNOT 3 and when your FTD has operating system above 7.1.0. Options only available to SNOT 3 and FTDOS 7.2.0 or above. Then you can also perform TLS 1.3 decryption. Okay, I'm gonna keep it to default and not gonna any make any change in here. Let's go to the rules section. I want to discuss about the actions in a SSL rule. So let's click on add rule. We will not create the rule, but we will just look at the actions. What actions are available? Do not decrypt. Do not decrypt, let the flow pass encrypted through the FTD. Decrypt and reassign. What does it do? In this case, FTD will try to decrypt the encrypted session, okay, by doing MITM, man in the middle attack between client and server. Decrypt known key. This option is used when you want to do inbound SSL inspection. Suppose you have some servers sitting in DMZ which are accessed via the clients over the internet. Then you will use this option and select the server certificate here. And other than that, you have block the SSL flow, block with reset to the SSL flow, and then monitor is where you just want to log the flow. You want this rule to match, but just do not get the action not to get applied. Basically, what will happen with the monitor? The rule will get matched, a log will be generated, and the subsequent rule in the policies will be matched. Okay, now let's cancel this. Before we create our first rule in SSL policy, let's look at some components which are used specifically in the SSL policy. So they are present under objects, object management. And the first thing I want to talk about is distinguished name object. Okay. So distinguished name object. Individual objects. Under individual objects, you can create distinguished name objects. So what are distinguished name objects? Distinguished name objects represent the distinguished name listed for a public key certificates subject or issuer. So you can create these objects in order to be used under SSL policies to match the specific flows that have this distinguished name either in the subject name of certificate or in the subject name of the issuer of that certificate. So let's create a distinguished name object. Let's give it a name and then save. Okay. So this is how you can create a distinguished name object. My object is created. Let's search for it. It is now created. In order to create a group of distinguished name objects, you go to object groups under distinguished name, click on add distinguished name group. Let's add a group and then you can choose the distinguished name objects which will be part of this group. I just added one of distinguished name object which we created. Okay. Now another thing I want to talk about is this PKI. Under the PKI, you have several options. We will talk about first the trusted CAs. Trusted CAs are the trusted certificate authorities which are present on the FMC. These trusted CAs are then used in the SSL policy. I hope you guys remember there was a second tab under the SSL policy for the trusted certificates. Suppose if there is any trusted CA which is not present on the FMC, then you can also import that. In order to add that, click on add trusted CA, give it a name, and then select the file and just hit the save button. My file is not encrypted, so I didn't need to check the box and provide the password in there. Now let's find out my trusted CA. This is my trusted CA certificate which I just imported into FMC. I can also create a group of trusted CAs. Let's create a group and then add our CA2. I can add more, but I'm just gonna add mine, which we just imported. You see, the group has been created. Now the option of internal certs. What are internal certs? Internal certificate objects are basically a certificate that belongs to your organization. So when these are basically used when we want to perform inbound SSL inspection. So in order to perform inbound SSL inspection, you will be importing a server's private key as well as certificate to the FMC so that it can be later on used in the SSL policy. So let's add a internal certificate. I will say add internal cert. I'll choose a file server.pam. You can have in PAM format or any base 64 encoded format. Let's choose a key file. I need to remove this stuff from the top. And now I need to put the password. So password, let me put the password because the private key is encrypted in my case. So the password is my super secure password and then save it. Fail to update cert based EO system. Okay. So it failed. Let me see if I made anything, if I did anything wrong in here. Ah, I forgot to check the box encrypted. Now the server certificate is successfully imported into the FMC. Now I can create even a group. I can say, okay, the group of my internal server certificates. I have only one. I'll use that and just do a save. That's how you can do that. Now internal CAs. Okay. So you need a CA in order for FMC to reassign the server certificates which is needed. This operation is needed, reassigning operation is needed for the SSL outbound inspection, basically outbound SSL inspection when user is accessing websites over the internet and then you want to see inside their encrypted data. I have already created a CA, SSL inspect routed FTD. You can generate a CA, okay, self-signed CA, or you can generate a CSR and get it signed by one of your internal CAs and then import it here. Click on generate CA. You are presented with the options. Let's create one more self-signed CA. Dummy, IN, uh, state or provenance, organization, I would say test, OU, let's say security, common name. What should be the common name on it? I'll say SSL dummy. And then if I click on generate self-signed CA, then it will create a self-signed CA. If I create generate CSR, then it will give me the CSR, which I can later give to my CA and get a signed certificate and then import it back here. Let's create a self-signed CA. So now you see the CA is just created here. That's how you can create an internal CA. You can also create a group of internal CAs. Let's create a group. I would say SSL internal CAs. Dummy. Let's select both of them. That's how you can create a group of internal CAs. External cert. Suppose you want to match the SSL rule based on the server certificate coming in a connection. Then so that you can import, for that you can import external server certificates here. Like suppose a connection sends a specific server certificate and you want to match the SSL flow based on that. So you can just add that certificate here. Uh, you can also do that uh, you know once you have imported the external set here multiple ones, then you can also create an external sets group. The last option, which is cert enrollment, that's a different option, not really used with the SSL policies, so we will talk about it later. So that's it for this video. In the next video we will create our first SSL policy. Till then, have a good day. Happy learning.